Welcome to the BCI podcast. Today, our guest is Dr. Elena Hoffer. Elena is the co-founder and CEO of AlmaMe, a platform dedicated to helping PhDs confidently transition into industry careers through on-demand courses, vibrant online communities, and tailored resources. Elena holds a PhD from Karolinska Institutet and brings deep expertise in flow cytometry, RNA isolation, and range of research skills developed during her academic journey. Beyond her scientific background, Elena is also passionate about entrepreneurship, having served as a manager at Founders Sunday, a global support network for over 1,300 startups and scale-ups. With experience organizing initiatives like the PhD Careers Beyond Academia Club at Karolinska Institutet and engaging with University of Copenhagen as a visiting PhD student, Elena offers a unique perspective on bridging the gap between academia and industry. Elena, welcome to the BCI podcast.
Thank you, Manish. Thank you for the invite. It's so nice to sit on the other side sometimes and not be the host.
Absolutely. And we are so interested in you because, I see you have a huge following on LinkedIn. And, I'm sure like all your followers on LinkedIn would like to know more about you. So tell us right from your beginning, where were you born? Where did you go to school? And how did you come to doing science?
Okay, where was I born? Actually, I was born in a small city called Blaubeuren. I guess no one knows it, and that's okay. It's very close to Ulm. And Ulm, again, is somewhere in the middle between Stuttgart and Munich, for everyone who doesn't know. So I grew up in a small village of 500 people. I must be around 500. Very small.
Very small.
Yeah, and I always thought it was very boring there. So I always wanted to go out into the world and, go into a bigger city. So this is where I grew up. After, I don't know how far I should go back, but I guess I can skip everything in between. So this is where I'm...
Anything interesting that happened during your school days? How did you get interested in biology? Tell us everything.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Manish, I will tell you everything. So basically, where do I actually start? It's very interesting. No one ever asked me. So this is where I was born. I mentioned that already. And then, my path into my PhD or into science wasn't always very, very straight. I was very fascinated by biology and the lab, and I saw myself working in a white lab coat in a lab one day. This was after, I thought about one day before I thought about becoming, someone working in a lab coat. I wanted to be a ballerina.
Mm-hmm.
Manish, this doesn't make any sense.
No, it makes sense. No, it makes sense. I totally understand, Elena, because, we all have fascinating dreams when we are a child. And then some inflection point, you have to kind of decide a serious career and then you take up a decision. So, that is why I asked you this question because, you will also think through. So your hidden goal was to become a ballerina and that's not bad.
Yeah. And, yes, that was my hidden goal. And then, when I became a bit older, my actual goal was to work in a lab. I always loved, when I was a kid, I was sitting outside. I always loved creating things, mixing things together. So I remember I made a lot of perfume in my garden. So we had a lot of lavender. Yeah. And it was very basic. Just take lavender, put it in water and wait. And it would actually take up the smell or take like rose petals or whatever. So I always had this I don't know if it's even creative, but this creating kind of part inside of me. So I thought one way could be to work in a lab, mix things together and, create some other things. So I will never forget I applied for being a chemist at a pharma company right after school and they actually rejected me. So I thought, okay, cool. What else can I do? So, because in Germany it's very common, we have these apprenticeships. So you go after school, exactly, Well, so I was like, okay, what else can I do? Because, there are many ways that can lead or bring you to Rome, that saying. So I thought, okay, what could be another way to work in a lab? So I was like, oh, there's this other path. I mean, I guess there are many paths, but one was to go into, it was called, I'm translating now, pharmaceutical. I was like a pharmaceutical technical assistant, like someone who is actually would work in a pharmacy under a pharmacist, right?
That's kind of Ausbildung in Germany, right?
Exactly, Manish. So it wasn't Ausbildung, but the interesting thing with this Ausbildung is that it was completely in school. So it was like 2 years in school because you needed to learn no one puts you in a pharmacy with customers because you actually have to have the knowledge in order to help them and advise them. But, we also learned like this was the coolest thing, like how to make creams and how to make capsules and all of this stuff. And it was amazing. And it was one way of getting into a lab, right? So I worked in a pharmacy after that for a little while. I moved into industry. Finally done. I moved into industry. I made it. And Manish, then I arrived at reality because I realized, oh my God, it's so boring. Manish, it was so boring, but not because of the lab, but it was just like at this level, I got so little responsibility and I just followed a protocol every day.
So it was like
basically,
any monotonous task. Like if you have to do the same thing again and again, that can be boring. I
yeah.
understand that, yes.
Yeah. So it was not like the type of lab work that we know now, doing a PhD, super exciting, coming up with new ways of solving problems. So the protocol was already written and I just followed protocol. And because, in pharma industry, everything is GMP. So you always follow your SOPs and it's not so much, going left or right, just do what you're supposed to do. So I thought, oh, okay, what can I do with my life? So I was like, you know what? Let's go to university. Let's study pharmaceutical biotechnology. So this is what I did in my bachelor's and in my master's.
And where was this? Where was this, Elena?
In Biberach.
I know Biberach.
Do you know Biberach?
Of course. Boehringer Ingelheim is there, right?
Exactly. And you need to know. Now we're back in 2012. It's a bit scary to say. 13 years ago, this was a program that was actually co-developed with Boehringer Ingelheim.
Wow.
Yeah, because they saw the need for these type of people because, 12 years ago, pharmaceutical biotechnology wasn't a big thing. It was just I'm saying, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So nowadays people, it's a field and a lot of people study it. So back in the days, it was a bit like not so extremely common. So I thought this was cool. And actually, at the end, I walked out, I was an engineer. So my degree was an engineering degree. And I really, really loved it. Like we manipulated, organisms, we cleaned antibodies. So you had the purification process. So we did so many things that were so much fun. So after my bachelor's, I had to write a bachelor thesis. And, Manish, this was my time. I was like, okay, I'm going to go abroad. I'm going to see something else. So one of my professors, actually, he did his PhD at Karolinska Institutet. So he thought this was a great place to do a bachelor thesis. So I went there for my bachelor thesis. This was the first time, 2015, I moved to Sweden, to Stockholm for the first time. Because that's usually what people ask me, how did you come to Karolinska Institute? And this is actually how I came there, because then I went back to Germany for my master's. I came back for my master thesis, and then I started a PhD at Karolinska Institute in hardcore immunology, basically.
Wow. So no, I'll kind of go back again. So you did your bachelor thesis, then went back to Germany, and then you continued your master's at the same place in Biberach.
Yeah, more or less. The master degree is a joint degree between University of Ulm and Biberach. So yes.
Mm-hmm. And there, because you have to do a very extensive master thesis in Germany. So that was where? That was also in Biberach, or?
So the thesis again was back at Karolinska Institute. I went
affinity to Karolinska right from the beginning.
Yeah, Manish, the reality, the honest answer why I went there was because in Sweden, most people speak English. So that was a big advantage because I don't speak Spanish, I don't speak Italian. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, that's, is a great place to go to. And so, yeah. That's why
No, but English, of course, you can go to UK, you can go to US. But of course, Swedish lifestyle, maybe, you liked it.
I loved Stockholm. Have you been to Stockholm, Manish?
I have not been to, but I have heard so many stories about Stockholm, yeah.
It's the Venice of Europe. You should, it's really...
Now I have a friend in you, so I can definitely visit it.
100%. Manish, and like now is a good time before it gets dark. But Stockholm honestly is very, very beautiful. There's a lot of water if you like water. So yeah, I also fell in love with the city. I think that was one of the other reasons.
Amazing. So when you study pharmaceutical biotechnology, of course, you are exposed to too many things. And, one thing that you said that by heart, you were like a kind of a child chemist, right? But what was that, how did you go about choosing your PhD topic? Because, it depends on so many factors. So how was it for you?
Honestly, Manish, I will probably have a very different answer.
Just an honest answer. We can have all like zero expectations.
So when I was like, I really want to go back to Stockholm for my master thesis, I reached out to the professor who I did my bachelor thesis with, and she said, I don't need anyone right now, but I know someone else. So she connected me with who then eventually became my PhD supervisor too. And I worked in the lab as a master student. I really enjoyed it. I felt like I had a lot of freedom. I felt like, we had enough resources so you could actually create and try things out without feeling like, oh, can I order this antibody or whatever? And I really loved I remember at the end of my master thesis, I worked with a PhD student, and she just submitted a paper where I was the second author on, but she had already she went back to France. So she was basically finished. So someone had to do the revision. And in this case, it was me. And it was really nice, Manish, because for the first time I felt like something was mine because I was driving the whole project, right? I was the one doing the experiments. I was the one planning all the experiments with very little help because my PhD supervisor, or the person who supervised me, she had already left. So I was like, this is really cool. And this is where I felt like, for me, it's really important to have this feeling of owning things, because
You have
then
the
I will
ownership of the project.
Exactly. And whenever I have ownership, I will go above and beyond, because I feel like, okay, it's on me to make this, to make this happen or succeed. And then I just do it.
Awesome. So, and what was the topic of your master thesis and then of your PhD? Yeah, I know it's long back, but
I'm like, okay, let me go back. Memory. No, of course I remember the topic of my PhD thesis, but my master thesis actually. No, honestly, in my master thesis, so in my lab, so my supervisor, so the main supervisor, the PI of the lab, she was a dermatologist. So what we worked with was T cells mostly, and T cells are implicated in different diseases like psoriasis. And in my master thesis, I was working with a PhD, and she was a dermatologist herself too. So in this master thesis project, we looked at the T cell composition within psoriasis patients. So every psoriasis patient has an affected skin. So basically skin which we call never lesional skin, because it never had a lesion. And then you have lesional skin, like, when you have the scaly, white, flaky patches. So we looked at the T cell composition between the affected skin versus the non-affected skin, to see if and then we looked at the different cytokine profiles. So we looked at numbers, cytokine profiles, and so on, and basically looked if within the non-lesional skin, like the skin that has never been affected, if it already shows a sign of disease. So if the T cells, for example, are already increased in numbers compared to healthy skin, if they show a different cytokine profile compared to healthy skin, obviously is a different donor in this case, is not the same person. So that was this was my master thesis project, basically. And then in my PhD project, I moved on so I started my PhD, Manish, it was 2018. It was very, well, now single cell sequencing, everyone talks about it. It's like completely, I don't want to say normal is maybe not the right word to use, but, is nothing uncommon anymore. When I started my PhD, it was kind of a new technology, fancy, whatever. So I did a lot of single cell sequencing to basically look into healthy skin and look at the clonal composition
of the skin,
of the T cells in the skin, because, we could sequence the TCR, which was super exciting. We could, at the same time, of course, get the information of the cell.
Why single cell sequencing is such an important thing?
Well, I think the reality is you have increased resolution, right, Manish? So people always talk of it like when you think of a smoothie, right? In a smoothie, you have everything combined. So you may find a taste A and taste B and taste C, but you can't really track it back to any cell or where it came from originally. Versus if you think about a fruit salad, now you take a fruit out, it's a strawberry, and you can look at the composition of the strawberry. So you understand exactly what this strawberry looks inside, and you kind of like get to understand, the composition of the strawberry. Versus if you throw it into the pool, you will find the information, but you can't really trace it back to the strawberry. So basically you have an increase in resolution, which allows you basically to start to understand the heterogeneity. So how the heterogeneity of certain samples, because now you're able, instead of saying, okay, you have certain genes in a pool, you're now able to trace them back to certain cells and potentially identify new cell subsets or cell types, which I think has actually happened a lot since single cell sequencing is out. And this is actually one part that we actually did identify a very small subset in the skin that hasn't been described. So this would not have been possible without single cell sequencing, because it's such a small subset. The entire information would have just been diluted in the rest, right, of the information.
Wow. Fantastic. So, I mean, you had your PhD, and I think in your favorite institute, I think under a nice supervisor because you are not depressed. So, tell us about your PhD journey. Did you have your own ups and downs or,
Manish, 100%, just like everyone. I did have my days where I was like, why the hell am I doing this? But, I think when I look back at my PhD, I have a lot of positive memories. I think I had a really good PhD, and I think it's due to a lot of different reasons. I think I had an amazing, colleagues and team and friends, I think are really important. And I guess like a lot of PhD students, they can really relate to this. You go to work, you have your friends there. So it's not just, a project that you're meeting your friends at the same time, because the people in the institute become your friends. I had a really, really good time, but it's also, I do know that, it's not maybe the most common answer always, but yeah, for me, it was always, I loved growing. It was always something learning, developing. And I thought a PhD is a really great opportunity to learn and develop. And whenever I encountered challenges, I tried to look at them through a mindset of that it's part of the growth journey. So I wouldn't let them drag myself down, Of course, it's hard, but I knew it was part of the journey. So it didn't feel as hard. I don't know if this makes any sense.
Oh, it makes. So, there's also like our brains are actually programmed for, just kind of taking us, absorbing good memories from the past. It's a mechanism, that's why we romanticize the past. But of course, in your PhD, as you rightly said, we all have our ups and downs. So did you ever think of quitting your PhD? No, that's because, somebody on the podcast said that, if you haven't thought about quitting your PhD, you are not doing a real PhD. But I mean, that's a joke. That's a joke.
No,
right?
of course it's a joke. No, Manish, of course. I mean, and of course we all have these thoughts, but it would have never crossed my mind of giving up. But I'm not a giving up mind, it's like
absolutely. And it's the same for me. I never thought of like giving it up. So I thought like, I've worked hard and I should get a PhD. I deserve it.
Don't give up halfway through.
Absolutely. No, I totally relate to that. So, Elena, you did something very unique, and that is why perhaps, you are here as a guest. So, you haven't taken traditional routes. Like normally people, if they pursue a PhD, they've already gone so far, they will carry on with their postdoc and then maybe try to become a faculty member or then go and work for some, company. This is the traditional path. Now you founded something called Alma-Me. So I have many questions related to that. Number one, what was your goal to do a PhD? What did you want to achieve by doing a PhD? Number two, if your goal was not to become a faculty or not to work in a company, was it like much before your PhD or during your PhD kind of you came up with the idea that, hey, no, I don't want to work. I want to start my own company. So tell us more about this.
Okay, let's start with question number one. What was my motivation to do a PhD? Manish, at the time, I may not have, I didn't have the same knowledge that I have now, but now I can, reflect back. So first of all, I did a PhD because I thought it was an amazing thing. I knew in this group, because, I've done my master there. So I knew in this group, like my supervisor will give me a lot of freedom to grow. I will get a lot of freedom to create, to test things. We had a lot of resources within the lab. And I just felt like it's something that I would really enjoy. On top of that, I knew that it's going to be challenging. And Manish, I do love to challenge myself, because before I started my PhD, people never thought I could do that. Before I did my PhD, Manish, I went on a little adventure. I just to show you, I love challenging myself in my mind. I went on to a silent retreat for 2 weeks. And Manish, everyone who knows me knows that I talk all the time. So that was already like, people were like, oh my God, because, you can't talk, you only meditate for 2 weeks straight. And I did it. So I think I'm just this person. I love to challenge myself and I love to grow and I love to go out of my comfort zone. And I thought a PhD can give me all of these things. So I said, I think is amazing. Looking back, I know why beyond the growth, which I guess is a big value in my life. It's really, I love to create stuff. I love to make an impact, and I think I found all of these things in doing a PhD. So for me, Manish, it was never so much about the topic. I know so many PhDs, they go and say, I really want to understand more, or, I love, I want to cure cancer. I guess we all had that thought, cure. And then you realize, okay, maybe I can contribute so much. But, this was never my driver. My driver was...
It was a challenge for you, not an intellectual pursuit.
Exactly. So this was my reason to honestly to start a PhD. But, the thing with me is like, once I started, I became so interested in solving the question because I love problem solving. So for me, like, yeah, I always gave my best in still pursuing the question that I had at hand. So yes, Manish, and what was your second question?
Second question was like, when did it occur to you that, I'm going to start a company of my own rather than doing a postdoc or searching for an industrial job? When did you start about creating Almami, basically?
So honestly, I realized at some point I have this entrepreneurial spirit inside of me. Because Manish, I see things and I think I think you could make this better. I see something that I think is not ideal and I think of a solution. And I found a lot of solutions to many, many problems in the world, but never have I felt so connected to any challenge that I saw before me to find a solution than I did when I saw the actual challenge PhDs had, going from academia into industry, understanding what are their opportunities beyond academia. And I didn't know that this was my path, but I realized I want to do something entrepreneurial. I felt this inside of me. I just didn't know in which direction. And when you have an open mind, so the way I came in contact with the PhD careers beyond academia is really by joining this organization, which was called PhD Careers Beyond Academia at KI. And I realized when I did these sessions, Manish, like, first of all, I always left them very fulfilled. And I felt, I had this like very nice feeling in my gut. It was just like, and I realized, oh, that's a sign, right? So I listened.
So this was during your PhD itself that you were kind of being in this club of PhD career and academia and beyond. And there you kind of started mentoring students, or like, when did you have this feeling that, I want to kind of, you were saying that, when I gave lectures, or I think you did a workshop or whatever you did, you felt nice. What was that thing that, made you feel very nice?
We did. No, Manish, I didn't. I think I didn't explain it. So basically, I joined this organization, and basically what they did, or what we did, we invited people like you, Manish, or me now, who had made the transition from academia into industry. So, and we just invited them and we asked them to talk about their transition, how they got where they are, maybe what it looks like to work in that job where they're at now. And, it was just very eye-opening because people with a degree like you and me, Manish, they moved into becoming research equity analysts in a bank. They became marketing managers. They became, field application specialists. They worked in sales. They became editors. So it was very eye-opening because the reality is you can do so many things with a PhD, but no one tells you. And I was like, okay. And, lots of people attended these events. And because it was Corona at some point, we opened it up online. So people joined from all over the world. Wow. And, I realized, Manish, is not a local problem. This is a global problem. PhDs don't know what they can do with their career. They don't know how valued their skills are beyond academia, and they don't know how to market themselves. And this is when I knew, okay, there is a problem to be solved. And at 2 career advisors, I think, in the Career Center, 1,500 students, Manish, and 900 postdocs.
Wow.
I mean, let alone the 6,000 undergrads. And I was like, okay, that clearly can't work. So I was like, how can I solve this? Because I saw a clear need.
Mhm.
So I thought, what if I build something that is scalable and offer it to universities? And this is what I did, basically.
Fantastic. No, that makes total sense to me. So coming back, like what do you think are the main challenges of the PhD students?
I think there are several. I think many PhD students, they're so focused on their research
Mhm.
that they never look left and right. The only thing they're concerned with is how to publish a paper, which is understandable. But the reality for many is that they then realize at the end of their PhD, I maybe don't necessarily want to stay in academia, but they have no idea what else they can do.
Mhm.
And because they have never looked left and right, they don't really know what else is out there. The university not necessarily helps you and informs you these are your options, right? So you need to do that on your own. You need to be proactive. So I think there's a real lack of understanding what you can do. As I said, I mean, go and ask PhD students if they had thought that they could do any of the things I just mentioned, few will know, but that's the
Mhm.
reality. You can do a lot of things. So there is a lack of awareness. And if you understand what you can do, I think next real challenge is how you can market yourself to non-academic employers. So it's very difficult to, show value to someone if I don't know what you value.
Mhm.
So if I don't know what you value, Manish, it will be very difficult for me to show you my value. Understanding what industry values and understanding that industry is a bit different and operates a bit differently is something most PhDs are not aware of. So they may use very academic language and academic CV that may work in academia, but not outside of industry. And the reality is everything we teach is not rocket science, but,
Mhm.
knowledge is power.
No, and this was going to be my next question. So in the world of AI or in the world of, information age, where like, information is available at the click of your mouse, basically, right? You can get
Hmm.
so much information. And PhDs are kind of presumably very intelligent people. They can have their own, search and stuff like that. Still they struggle when it comes to kind of transitioning. And that was my question. Why do you think is this happening? And how Alma Me helps them?
So, Manish, I think the first thing is the following. You can only use and leverage AI if you know what to ask. If you don't prompt the right thing, you won't get the right question. And
Mhm.
everything you don't know that you don't know.
Mhm.
If you don't know that you don't know, there is no way for you to ask the right question on how to fix it. And I think this is a little bit of the first thing. You don't know that certain things are different. So, for example, if you have never heard about, that you should structure your CV in a different way and that you should use different language, is really hard for you to ask how to fix it because you're not even aware. So I think it comes back a lot to awareness. And on the other hand, of course, I'm not saying I'm teaching you something that you could never know yourself. But what we
Mhm.
do is we do it in a very structured
Mhm.
way that it is digestible and that it's understandable and that it has a clear path how to navigate every step. I think a lot of PhDs are very overwhelmed because when they walk out and think, what's next, they have no idea where to start. What can I do? And then they start and they look for different positions and then they apply for everything. So there is no strategy. Instead of going, okay, what do I want, Manish? And then start from a place of what do I want and how does this align with certain career paths outside of industry, outside of academia, and then creating a coherent story why you want to go in this direction. It's very difficult, Manish, if you go out and you think, oh, I'm applying for a sales position, but I'm also applying for a researcher position in industry. Oh, and I really think this marketing position is also really cool. Although sales and marketing are probably relatively close, but data science. I could also apply as a data scientist. So the reality is, which story are you telling? It's
Mhm.
really difficult to tell a coherent story why you want to do sales or why you want to do data science or why you want to do, maybe marketing, because at the end of the day, I think it just, you come across, if you want to do all of these things, you come across as very unfocused because, I could tell you a story why I want to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
I know it because it's based on my values. It's based on my interests. I
Mhm.
can't really tell you a story why I would want to be a data scientist. So it's really difficult. And, when you think about hiring someone straight out of academia, there is a certain risk involved. Last
Mhm.
week I was in a panel in Vienna, and there was a hiring manager from Amgen,
Mhm.
and I think he said it actually really nicely, because he said, um, hiring someone, a fresh grad from a PhD, is relatively risky, because there is a risk that you don't know what you want,
Mhm.
and you just applied for a position to get a job, and in half a year you realize you actually don't like it. So he said everything he can see that de-risks the hire, which can be an internship you have done in this direction. It's not the internship, but it's the decisiveness of knowing what
Mhm.
you wanted. You have done an internship already as a medical science liaison. Now I can actually have a reasonable belief that you have thought about this for a longer time than just, oh, I didn't know what to do with my life. Does this make any sense? It's about telling this story
Mhm.
of why you want to do something and why
Absolutely.
you are the best fit. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think you need to have a strategy, towards any goal that you want to achieve in life, right? So otherwise it looks too like you were like not knowing what to do, right? So if you have like a strategic choices that you have made in life, then you are like, it's easy for you to convince somebody that, I took this decision because I wanted to do this. It makes total sense to me. Maybe for our audience, because this has to be kind of a small masterclass for basically all PhD transitioners. So tell us how Almami operates. How does it help the students, and what advice do you give them, like normally?
Okay, how Almami operates is actually a big question. We operate in different ways, but the mission is always the same. The mission is to help PhDs, to equip them with tools and knowledge that they can actually successfully land.
Mhm.
Not any job, but actually a job that they like to do outside of academia. When I started the company with Angela, actually, the mission was really to cater and build something that we can, a scalable solution that we can sell to universities, where we started to have self-paced offerings that they
Mhm.
could basically offer to their students in a very flexible way, because it's accessible 24/7.
Is it a course or that you
Um,
offer to the university?
It is, yes, the first version, Manish, is actually a bit complicated, but yes, for the sake of keeping it simple, it is a course. But we have also now started building our platform, where we have all sorts of very in-depth masterclasses on how to build a CV, how to get your LinkedIn profile ready, how to get started networking, where we cover all of these things. And we also do have one product that is a course that takes you from I don't know what to do and who I am, until really salary negotiation and everything in between, in a very guided way. So this is what we offer to universities. It's also something we currently offer at Karolinska Institute. We've
Mhm.
made it actually into the course catalog for PhD students. So it's
Mhm.
offered as a ETCS accredited course and can be taken towards your PhD degree. And this was a real success for me, because I have a deep belief that every PhD student should have access to these things. So for me, it was always about making these offerings an integral part
Mhm.
of PhD education and not an optional part. That was actually a big, big step towards that mission. We have also just had a course with University of Basel, where we offered it for ETCS for their students. So, there's a lots of good stuff happening. However,
Mhm.
we're also helping PhDs, like individual PhDs that seek our help, that are maybe not at the university anymore. And there we tested actually different formats. So we were
Mhm.
looking for product market fit, so to speak. We knew there's a problem, but we didn't really know what the market wanted in terms of solution. And it turns out it was experimental. It turns out a program that we're running very successfully, Job Accelerator program, we
Mhm.
call it, is something that the PhD students really seem to value. So it's
Mhm.
a very hands-on program where we help individual people getting into jobs. So we work with them until they have a
Mhm.
job. So we prepare them throughout every step of the way of the job search until they sign an offer.
And what are these steps? Because I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to extract as much as possible.
Okay, I will tell you. So what we do actually in the Job Accelerator program. So I need to give also a little bit of background, maybe
Mhm.
on my co-founder, because
Mhm.
obviously I have the academic experience, right? So
Mhm.
I don't have the deep industry experience. And I don't know if you've ever read the book The Alchemist
Mhm. Of
from
course, Paul
Pablo
Coelho.
Coelho.
Mhm.
Exactly. It says when you're on the right way, the entire universe will conspire to support you
You, absolutely.
or help you. Exactly. So when I had this mission and, I wanted to build something for PhD students, I will not go into detail, but I magically was introduced to Angela Priest, my co-founder, who lives in Denver, Colorado. So the universe brought us together through a common connection that we both met on LinkedIn, Manish.
Fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and why are we such a good match is because I have the very deep academic experience, and Angela, she has been in industry for the past 25 years, Manish. And out of these 25 years, she spent 20 years in hiring, building high-performing teams. Angela has always been on the people side of the business in the operational space. So she built high-performing teams from, startup to big corporate, from insurance to tech. And she helped companies build efficient hiring processes. So I was like, woohoo! Yay. So she was kind of like the component that I needed because I don't have the understanding of the nuance, what is being said in the hiring room. I've never sat in a hiring room, so it's really, really difficult if you don't know. So I could only talk about my own experience, but sometimes what we think or what we believe, what is the right thing based on our experience is not what's actually happening or what they're actually talking about in the hiring room. So Angela was the part I needed because she has read, I don't know how many of thousands of resumes. She has built interview processes. She understands the different parts of the interview process and everything. So yeah, now together as a team, we help PhDs through the application process. So they come to us usually. Manish, when we tested a program, I thought, it's probably people that come to us who have been applying forever and ever and don't get a job. But the reality is very different. Lots of people there, they realize they need help from the beginning. They know that we can help them accelerate. So they haven't even started applying. Some of them, they haven't even completely finished like the PhD. It's not the normal case. It's also that we have these PhDs. Some have already finished. So they come in and Angela develops a marketing kit with them. Because at the end of the day, finding a job is a sales process. I know as academics, we don't like to hear it, but this is the reality.
That is the reality. You have to sell yourself.
You have to sell yourself. Exactly. Why would I pay for your knowledge, right? Why would I hire you, Manish? You need to tell me.
And
so,
just a small question in between.
Yeah.
So Angela is also academic from a background, like she worked in industry, or she also has a PhD and then she worked in industry?
No, so I mean, Angela has a psychology background, so she got a psychology degree in family and marriage therapy. And people always go like, family and marriage therapy, how does this fit with the operational space? But it's all about solving systemic problems. I can't exactly explain, but this is her background. So she has no PhD. So she has so we're together, we're like, exactly, we complement each other. Yeah, Manish. So basically when they joined the program, and we've already, we started at the beginning of this year. So we have already developed the program so much further because, you learn so much. You start something, you don't really know how to do it. And then you learn and you improve and you make it more efficient. But basically what we do, when PhDs decide to work with us, we take them in, and there is something that we call the marketing phase, where Angela really builds the marketing kit with you. So you come in and Angela will figure out with you what are the right roles for you to target based on, your interests, but also your subject matter, your technical skills, your interests, and your values. So what are the right roles? Because we believe in a very targeted approach. So she defines with you 2 to max 3 different roles, and also at which level, right? We had PhDs coming in to us, they got rejected, Manish, because at the end of the day, she was completely overqualified for the positions that she applied for, because she had no idea that she was actually more of a director level, because she was not coming straight out of a PhD. She had worked before in a company. She had managed like numerous of people. So she was just applying for jobs where she was totally... Yeah, exactly. So for example, Angela helped her to fix that, to see where she fits. So that was the first thing. Now, when we have defined this, these roles, then in the next phase, Angela is developing a resume with you for this role. And she's developing a resume with you that can be adapted relatively quickly. So you can, because you should tailor your resume, but you can't spend like 3 hours tailoring it. She helps you to get a resume that actually is that you can adjust relatively quickly. I would say it takes you max 20 to 30 minutes, or it shouldn't take you any longer, because in terms of strategy, we believe that it's important in today's market to get at least in the first batch of applicants. If you're number 300, you may not even be looked at if the recruiter managed to establish a candidate pool in the first 200. So you get a resume that actually works, but you also get an outright outreach strategy. So you don't only rely on cold applying, but we also give you a strategy at hand how you can reach out to the hiring team. So every position, Angela and I encourage you to reach out to the hiring team, and Angela has a whole communication template with you how to reach out, because the important thing is, just like when you're an academic, you speak academic language. When you're a hiring manager, a certain language resonates with you as a hiring manager. So Angela, since she has been a hiring manager for many, many, many years or decades, she understands the language they speak. So with these communication templates, they then not only apply, through the normal pipeline, but they also reach out to the hiring manager, which actually works really, really well. So that's really, really great to see. And then Angela helps you in the next step to align your entire personal, we can call it your personal brand, everything you can find about someone towards that position. So if someone lands on your LinkedIn, they will see one story. If someone looks at your resume, they will see the same story. And if you go into an interview, you see the same story. Everything is aligned towards,
the story you want to communicate, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really important, because imagine you apply for a sales position. I go onto LinkedIn and all I see is data science. It's just like, try to tell a coherent story. No matter where they find information about you, it should tell the same story. So this is what we help in the next step with. And then the fourth step is really interview preparation. And it's a very more general interview preparation on, who will you encounter, what are the different interview types, what are questions they will be asking, and what are they actually trying to evaluate, because that's sometimes a little bit of a black box. What are they actually trying to assess? So Angela goes with you through all of this. When you have finished that phase, which took us in the beginning 4 weeks. We now made it more efficient to 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, you're through this marketing phase. You go over into job search phase. And during that time, we work with the PhD. They meet us once a week where we check in. We see that they're on track, that they kind of hit a certain type of success in their, application to interview rate. If we see that they are a bit off, we try to see, okay, what is it? Maybe are they applying for the wrong roles, or are they outreaching the wrong person on the hiring team, so we can help them adjust? Or do they have some mental blocks? If someone doesn't apply for 1 week, then you kind of help them work through what is it. And sometimes it's just because they don't feel qualified for anything. And then we help them work through these things. So now let's assume you get an interview, then you would come and we would really prep you for the interview. And this is really interesting, because really it's when you have someone who can prep you and you know that it's a reliable source, the PhDs get really quickly confident. We worked with one PhD when she started working with us. She was, the first time she came to us, she was in tears because she had such a low confidence, or such a low level of confidence, Manish, and it was amazing to see the transformation. That's why I love what we do. I'm not kidding you. By working with us, she understood her value and how her skills add value, trained her how to present herself in the interview and how to ace the interview. And when she got her 5th interview, Angela was like, "Do you want to prep?" And she was like, "No, I got this." And Manish, this is crazy, because it's not just helping someone getting a job. It's really also transforming the way they think about their own value and the value of their PhD. Yeah,
it's not just about being a trainer, but it's also about being a psychotherapist, I would say, because you are kind of counseling them to make the best out of their personality, right? So I understand the satisfaction that you get because, you are transforming somebody's career journey, definitely, right? So, but then I'll have some tough question, because people will ask you, PhDs are smart people, right? They're intelligent people. And all that you are telling now, that is so obvious to me. And I'll tell you, Elena, my story. Of course, I had all this confusion and everything, but I never had to I never felt that there is a need. Even this was much before. I was just trying to have informational interviews with people on LinkedIn, trying to find out what they did right. And even when I moved to first consulting job, I met all my peers who never kind of went into, these kind of courses. But that doesn't mean that this kind of courses doesn't add value. This certainly does. But then I see now, like, it's like mushrooming, right? Like you have so many people just doing that on LinkedIn, and you will see, across, like, it's just not a US phenomena. It also happens in Europe. It happens in India. And there are some genuine people, and there are also a lot of fake coaches, right? And now I will ask you, how do students, PhD students, identify the fake gurus versus the genuine gurus?
So, good question. First of all, the way I would do it is I think I would always be very careful who I take advice from. If someone, is where you want to be, is definitely, worth a conversation to listen. But I think what is even more important than someone is where you want to be, because that doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to guide you there. It means that they can share their own experience of how they got there, that it may not work for you. I think more important is before I would want to work with anyone, I would ask them about results. Because at the end of the day, it's all about, can you deliver a result? So for us, as an example, we only get paid if people get a job. It's very simple, Manish. You don't get a job, I don't get paid.
Wow.
So it's a
This is so
win-win.
fantastic. Yeah, this is so fantastic.
Yeah. So, I think look at the results. Ask people, what are the results that you have achieved for people? I think that's the important thing, to see what are the results they have gotten. Because, a lot of people can talk. Does that mean that they have that they can actually help you? Not necessarily. So I think do your due diligence,
And
ask
how
the right
do they
questions.
do this? Because, so there are like so many level of due diligence that a PhD has to do. First of all, many PhDs you will see, Elena, and I'm not kidding, this is genuine problem of internationals. They are struggling with their visa, they're struggling with their spouse, they're struggling with the loss of income. And at the same time, job hunt itself is like, a very stressful situation, right? So they have this mountain of stress building over their head. And then they become so vulnerable that, whoever comes across their path, they kind of easily, one mistake can lead to other. And I have seen people exploiting these vulnerabilities. So it is, of course, there are like good people needed in this industry who can kind of really guide them in a genuine way rather than exploiting their vulnerabilities. Am I making sense to you?
Manish, you make a lot of sense. So my answer to this is I would wish that every PhD would walk out of, their PhD and they would kind of like know how to navigate the journey because they have been taught or they had access to the knowledge and the tools. Unfortunately, most don't, and they're actually really, really lost. So my advice is be careful on, some people, they sell with pressure tactics. I mean, we have read about this online and even, in the Nature Career column. So everyone who pressures you into something, I would be already very careful. Just pay attention also to red flags, right? And so do ask, what are the results that you have achieved for people? And I think this is what matters, because if you have the trust that someone can achieve similar results for you, I think that's really, really important. So if someone says, I have helped or I'm selling you this program, then you can ask, okay, can you show me testimonials? Can you show me stories? Can I talk to a person who went through the program? Look at testimonials, ask for these things, because if people have helped other people successfully get into jobs, there's probably some evidence of this. Ask for the evidence.
Absolutely.
And then maybe talk to these people too. Try to get a chat with them. Ask if they can set up a chat for you before you commit to something.
And the way that you operate, I think, I like the way that, kind of you have introduced this course during their PhD journey. So this is one. And the second I understood that is that you have this job search accelerator program, right? And when somebody registers to your job search accelerator program, it's not that upfront that you charge them. You charge them only after they have got the job.
Correct, Manish. But what we also do is we do charge them upfront. $699, and I can tell it because it's transparent.
Yes, go ahead. Yes,
and it's very important because we want people that are committed. If we didn't take anything, everyone would sign up for our program.
Exactly.
So you need to be, because the risk is on us. If everyone would join this program, the risk will be on me to get you a job, because if I don't get your job, you will not pay me. So which means my business is never going to be viable unless I have people who go in who are proactive. Because the important thing is, Manish, while I can give you all the guidance and all the support and everything you need, you're in the driver's seat. I can't do the job for you. And this is very important. So you need PhDs, or you need people that are committed to go with you on this journey and find a job. Because I will only be able to do, the best or help you in the best way if you do your part. It's really more of a symbiosis than anything else.
So one charge is, of course, you charge the $6.99 in the beginning. And then how, do they have to pay again when they get a job, or how's it?
Yes, exactly. When they get a job, they pay a one-time fee to us after they sign the contract, and they can pay it in one go.
What is your one-time fee, after somebody has got a job?
10% of the yearly salary first year. So we take 10%, and you can pay it as you wish. We had people going through the program. They got a signing bonus. They were like, can I pay in one go? Yeah, sure. But we had someone going through, and that person wanted to pay off over a period of 12 months. Also great. But what I really see is, Manish, because a lot of people go and they say, oh, Elena, but 10% is a lot. Yeah, it's true. But if you think differently, if I get you a job 1 month earlier, this is basically a free service. If I get you, a salary of 10% more than you expected, this is a free service. So, expensive is relative when you understand the value that we can provide to you. First person we ever worked with, Manish, I'm not kidding you. We have the testimonial. He got 75% more salary than he wanted. It's understanding your value and what you're worth and what your skills are worth is really, really important.
No, fair enough. Yeah. So, because this has to be also this podcast that we are doing should offer some value to the PhD students, right? So for the sake of it, let's come back again. So you said you will do this CV optimization, then you kind of coach them on basically updating their LinkedIn profile. What else do you teach them?
Well, we teach them anything they need, from networking skills and how you can network with the right people, how you can approach, not just the hiring team, but how you can in general build a network. How can you leverage LinkedIn to build a network? How can you leverage LinkedIn, for example, in the job search? But I think these are really the main components, because at the end of the day, job search is about marketing, being out there, networking with the right people. You never know. I mean, ideally you network before you need to network, Manish, as you know. It's really, ideally you start in the middle of your PhD, but it's really not a luxury most PhDs have. When they're at the end of their PhD, they just have to, go out. Then there is no time to build a network before you need it. So you have to kind of go out and start then building your network and see what happens.
In terms of let's make it more tangible. So tell 5 bullet points for CV optimization. What should they focus? 5 important things.
I mean, I think the first thing is, if you have 10 pages, if you have more than 2 pages, it's likely too long. If you have just taken your academic CV and kind of transformed it, made it a bit shorter to transform it into a 2-page CV, but you have not changed anything else, it's likely not going to work, because it's still not speaking to an industry audience. Remove the publications, remove the conferences, remove all these scholarly achievements that are really, really valued in academia, but not so much in industry, which doesn't mean your publications are not valued at all. I mean, if you want to have them, create a website, put the links on, put a link in your application, put the GitHub, whatever. But don't have a long list of everything. Remove it. Have a professional summary, and do not let AI write your professional summary. This is, because when you talk to recruiters, when you talk to people that work in hiring, they will tell you they all read the same. Because you get it. At some point, it's like all the same words, it's the same sentence structure. People see it. And of course, if you do this once, you have seen it once, you have no idea, but they all look the same. Don't use AI, but not to let it write things for you. Maybe for grammar, correcting things, and so on. But I think the professional summary is a place where you can show personality and where you can stand out from everyone else. What makes you different, right? So really use that space. Another point would really be adapt your language. So go from very descriptive language, which we're very much used to, I did XYZ, to more impact-based language, or, well, actually, I like this word, Angela and I, we say evidence-based language a bit more because it's bring evidence, you state a skill and bring evidence that you actually have the skills, right? So it's not just saying, I'm a good communicator. I mean, Manish, who isn't nowadays? But where's the proof that you're a good communicator? I have spoken at 10 conferences in front of XYZ. I have given, I don't know how many presentations to, different stakeholders. I have worked with clinicians that I needed to. I have worked with students. These are the things. Bring evidence. Don't just say what you did. Exactly. Don't tell, show. So I think that's another very, very important point to make. And other than that, let me think. We talked about the length, right? We talked about the language. I think the structure, what
The
we do
keywords
see.
maybe, because many people are afraid on these bigger companies. Your CV has to go through this automated processes. So what's your advice to this use of the keywords?
Well, honestly, let's first have a sentence on the ATS, the applicant tracking system. Manish,
Exactly. Yes.
because we're really trying to demystify that machine. Actually, let's say it like this. Angela and I work with a lot of recruiters. None of them ever has confirmed that this machine automatically rejects unless it's a binary question. And the question goes like this. Are you willing to relocate? If the answer is no and you don't live where the place is, you may get automatically rejected, right?
Yeah, this is fair. This is fair.
Fair, right? So generally, the applicant tracking system, what it does, it tracks the applicant throughout the application process. But it does not, to our knowledge, automatically reject. It's always a recruiter who looks at, it's always a human who actually does the rejection. I mean, it's, I guess, good news. Also, sometimes maybe bad news, because we always try to beat the system, and all of a sudden you realize you can't beat the system. The best way to beat the system is to get a referral, to network, to, get somehow around going through the system. That much about the ATS. I personally wouldn't be too concerned with keywords and sprinkling keywords in. I would try to be more concerned about having a tailored application that shows how I can do the job, actually, and make it different, make it somewhat personal, show who you are. Outstanding is not that difficult, actually. I mean, I had the other day with my ex-mentor. He's now a vice president of translational medicine at Novo Nordisk. We had actually a conversation, and he said to me, Elena, it's so easy to stick out. Most people don't even tailor their application. You wouldn't believe it, Manish. It's so easy. Just start tailoring your CV and you already have a big advantage. It's not as difficult, but if everything just reads very generic, is like you won't stand a chance. So tailor your application, tailor your CV, show how you can do the job in that company, why you want to work in that company.
Oh, great advice, Elena. Great advice. Now, coming back, you have a huge following on LinkedIn, and this was brought by attention from Professor Bob, basically, right? Robert Harris, who was our guest on the previous podcast. And now you have coached him. He has grown, like he's one of the top influencers he mentioned now in Sweden. So give 10 important tips for our audience to grow their LinkedIn profile, basically.
Okay, 10 important tips. Okay, so if you want to grow your audience, I think the first thing is you need to understand who is your audience. What does your audience value? So I think the first thing is to understand if you want to create content, you need to provide value. There is so much stuff out there, Manish. Why would I stop and read your stuff?
Absolutely.
What value are you providing to me? So first thing, really know your audience. I think this is probably the first three. Know your audience, know your audience, know your audience. Understand their pain points. Pain points sounds wrong, but it's really just understand what troubles them. How can you provide
what they
value
would like to
and
learn.
speak? Absolutely. So I think that's one of the most important things. A lot of people, they talk about how to beat the algorithm, how to do all of these things. I don't believe in it, honestly. I mean, just provide value. If you do something where people go like, wow, cool, I like this, they will stop, they will read, they will leave a like, and they may actually even go on your profile and follow you.
Awesome.
I think that's the most important advice.
Know your audience, provide great value.
Percent. Have a nice profile. Honestly, optimize your profile. Think about what's the purpose of your profile. Think about a little bit like also what do you want to be known for, right? I mean, it's, I have a very empowering voice. I try to be inspiring. So this is my whole content kind of evolves around this. I want to be educational. So think about this a little bit too. What do you want people to think and feel when they think about you? And, have a profile that aligns with that. I mean, you go on my profile, you see I'm very like pink and yellow and like very colorful. So this is just my personality. So, be you. I think that's the most important
Being
thing.
authentic.
Don't try.
Absolutely.
Be authentic. Don't try to fit in. Just, be yourself. And of course, align it with where you want to go professionally too, right? So if you want to, I'm in a very like unconservative industry. I'm building a startup. It's naturally a bit chaotic, messy, whatever maybe. It's not like, we're in a very traditional industry like insurance. So also think about this, adapt a little bit to it. So another thing for growing your audience. I think LinkedIn is not a platform where you go on, you scream into the void and then you leave. Engage with your audience. So we always say don't post and ghost. So when I post, I always try to be present at least the first 30 minutes, 1 hour. Engage with your audience because what is the purpose? You're not just there to scream into the void. You're here to also have an interaction with the people and spark discussion. And Manish, for me, is really like, actually 2 days ago, I made this post and it was just so cool because when you read the discussion under the post, this is what is the real value because you have the ability to get perspectives from all over the world. I had people from all over the world engaging, sharing their perspective. And I think this is the real value of being on that platform. It's not just only getting my thoughts out, but also to hear how do other people think about this. And one of my best posts, what the world thinks who we are, PhD students, what we actually are. And we're all these different things. It was so amazing. It completely blew up, Manish. Because guess what? It's the reality. And people felt so seen. But when you go into the comment section, I think I remember how many comments I have, like 1,000 comments. It's just so amazing because, you people commented and they kind of like shared their perspective and added, what else we can do and why we're not students and how the world just looks at you, at us in the wrong way. I also think it has to do a lot with the word student. We should probably be PhD researchers. But I think, so engage with your post, with the people in your post, build community. Don't just scream into the void, but also engage with other people's posts. If you want to grow, one big part will be engage with other people's posts. Not because the algorithm will love you for doing it, but because, Manish, it's very easy. I give you something, you give me something back. It's the way we work. And sometimes it's like,
nature.
exactly, it's the human nature. Manish, it's like if someone comes and constantly comments under my post, at some point, this person kind of like, you have this name recognition and you go like, oh, when this person posts, you're like, somehow, you just feel like you want to give something back and you want to engage too. And there is also a high likelihood, of course, that you're interested in similar things, right? Because this person has posted under your posts, now you can.
Absolutely.
So,
And this is what happens, I mean, you are basically, people think, I mean, LinkedIn is also a virtual, basically, world, right? Like it's very similar to, how you interact like on the ground socially, right? So when you meet people, you recognize them. So when you interact with people, you recognize them. And then you kind of build trust, build community. I totally get that.
100%
Fantastic.
Manish. And I think a lot of people actually do forget sometimes, when we're on LinkedIn, on the other side of the screen, still a person. So just remember, just behave like you would behave when you meet someone on the street with the same level of respect, with the same level of kindness. I think that's my other thing. Just, be a good person, be kind. And I mean, it's totally fine. I think LinkedIn is a platform. I'm not here that people come and agree with me, but you can disagree in a respectful way. And I think that's important without becoming personal, without offending anyone. And this is something I see actually like a lot on, I think LinkedIn is a very respectful platform. That's why I think I like to be there, because people are usually quite nice and kind to each other if you compare it with other platforms, from what I've heard.
Like Twitter. No, absolutely. Like, because you can be troll, you can be, so people kind of are also, I mean, LinkedIn is also a platform where I think you will have less fake profiles, unlike other platforms where like people have this anonymity and then they leverage that for trolling others. And, that's why I think girls also feel safe on LinkedIn, I would say.
100%. I mean, it's at the end of the day, you're there with your full name, right? And for most people,
Absolutely.
it's like their
It's a
real
brand
name.
building exercise, isn't it?
No, 100%. And I always like to, when I teach PhDs about LinkedIn, I always say, remember, I mean, everyone can read every single comment you ever left because it's in your
Absolutely.
profile. So, when someone learns so much about Manish, when I interact with people on LinkedIn, I can tell you, I can tell so much about them by the way they interact with other people. So, think of the perspective of you're applying at a company, and this company comes onto your profile and looks at your comments. What will they see? Who will they encounter? Are you a kind person? Are you empowering? Are you inspiring? Who are you? Or are you someone who is constantly negative, dragging people down? And it's something that is important to think about when you look for a job. Because when you bring someone into a team who brings a lot of negativity, is not, yeah, think about that too when you're on LinkedIn, I think. I don't know how many tips I gave you. You asked
No,
me
you
for 10. That's actually Manish.
you gave a lot of tips. I mean, 10 was just to kind of maximize, Maybe tell some tips, because I get these questions. Hey, which kind of photo they should put on LinkedIn? And there is like, I cannot really say that this is hard and fast rule that you have to kind of post like this, but I want to hear from you.
Okay. I have a part in my course on how to, which LinkedIn photo. So first of all, when you think about your photo, I think of it as something that is, I would choose something that is focus upper body. So don't put a whole body picture, obviously not at the beach. I wouldn't wear sunglasses. I don't think that's very professional. I like to always recommend, have a nice photo. It doesn't have to be taken by a professional photographer. Get a friend with a good hand, get a good background. Most phones have really good cameras, honestly. Just put a smile on. I really do believe people connect with someone who's smiling. It's just, it's different, right? You look more approachable. Wear something that is professional. Now people say, what is professional, right? It's difficult to define. Something that you would wear to work, maybe. Think about the workplace where you want to work. Obviously, there are workplaces where people wear a bit more formal things, and there are workplaces where people are less formal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
So my workplace, you can
yeah.
wear shorts, basically.
Yeah. See, that's good. Nevertheless, I would probably not put a picture with like shorts on LinkedIn, obviously, but you shouldn't have the whole body. But if you look at my profile, I mean, I'm in a startup. I'm building a startup. When you look at my picture, is different. It's a bit like, because we're a bit more bold, we're like all of these things. So it's just find something that fits for the environment where you want to go to. And something also that is still you. I think that's very important. So don't think you have to put a mask on and be someone else. Be yourself in a professional way. But really, I would recommend to focus on the upper body. Yeah. And really try to frame your face, because that's what it's really about, right? You want people to connect with you, get an impression who you are.
No, fantastic. Amazing. Now coming back to, because you have given like really lot of valuable suggestion as far as the CV is considered, then the LinkedIn thing is considered. Now moving back to, the application process. Do you have also some tips for the application? A few tips?
A few tips. I have many tips.
Yes.
Manish, I have many tips for the application process in general. What I see, coming back to something I said before, but I think is fundamentally important in terms of strategy, we, and I think a lot of other people, do not recommend a shotgun approach. So if you go out and you look for a job outside of academia, start with yourself, do some reflection. What are the things you value? What are, your technical skills? What is the subject matter expertise? What are your values? That matters too, right? And how do all of these things align with career paths and also companies outside, right? Whether you move into a startup, you may encounter you will encounter a very different environment versus big corporate, where you have lots of different levels, lots of structures. When you move into smaller startups, it's usually less structured. So understand a little bit, flat hierarchy. Exactly. Understand a little bit what you value. I loved For me example, I do love the startup structure. For me, is amazing because I'm creative and I love to test a lot of things and move very fast, which is usually you have more flexibility within startups because you don't have these many different levels. So when you start a job search, start with yourself, understand what roles would align with whatever you need and want in life, and then start applying in a very targeted way towards these roles. Try to tailor your CV, your resume towards the role. It's sometimes very easy to be different by simply tailoring your CV because you wouldn't believe it. Apparently, according to hiring managers I talk to, they say it's still very common that a lot of people send in generic CVs. So that's a thing, a little thing to be different. Do have a LinkedIn profile. Be present online. It really, I know, I mean, I say it all the time, but it's really, and I will now refer to an example to when I was back in Vienna last week at this panel. There was a hiring manager. I think he was from Amgen, and he said, when we look for people to hire, first we look into our pipeline past applicants or people who have done an internship. And then the next step is we go on LinkedIn and we look for people, So it's actually something that is being done, that is used to just, maybe find suitable people in your area. But nevertheless, be on there. I mean, sometimes you will, people will wonder if you're a real person, if you apply somewhere and they go, and they want to check out if you have a LinkedIn profile and you don't exist. It's so common these days.
It's so common. Yeah, absolutely.
It's so common just to have a presence. And when you have a presence, please, please, please try to align it with your, whatever who you're trying to be professionally and the direction you want to go to. Have a banner. Many, many people. I mean, can you believe Manish? It's such an easy thing. It's free advertisement space, guys. Please put a banner. Whenever I come to a profile that doesn't have a banner, the first thought that I have is, looks a bit neglected. It's really not a big deal. You can go to Canva. You can get a free banner. Put it up. It doesn't even have to be elaborate, but just put something on. So that would be another tip. Networking, Manish. Networking. And preferably not when you need your network. Start networking during your PhD. There are so few things that are more valuable than a network, really. Like, especially in today's job market, one way of being different is if someone knows you, if someone can bring you in. It really gets your application seen. So this can really be a game changer. Here now in Sweden, I really would say people like to hire people they know.
I think it's a human psychology again, everywhere. You can trust more, simply like people that you know.
Yeah. So this is really something, I'm saying all the time, and I'm not always sure people believe me how important it is, but, it is very important. So do start. And I know it can feel a bit the work
Overwhelming, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, for many Manish, the word networking is a bit abstract. But what does networking mean? Networking is super awkward, they tell me. And then I say, you know why it's awkward? Because what you're thinking of is a transactional ask. It's not networking. When we talk about networking, it's by definition relationship building.
And
Showing up.
it shouldn't be like transactional on the go. So
No.
you should have genuine interest in some people. You build a relationship, and automatically people are of that nature that they'll try to kind of help you out if they can.
100%. I do think in general people want to help. I think this is something, generally about people. So, but you need to have an already established relationship. It's very difficult when you go to someone and you ask for a favor when you don't actually have any basis, because then it becomes a transactional ask, and that usually is not going to work.
Absolutely.
So having that pre-existing relationship is just very, very important. And it's really it's not as scary as people think, because, Manish, for example, when I went out on LinkedIn networking, all it was connecting with like-minded people, like no agenda, nothing. That's all it is. Engaging. And through this engagement that we have and through the discussions and the comments, this is where you start building the relationship. And then this is what we call networking. So I like to reframe it for PhDs, and I say, networking is relationship building. is nothing else. It's just relationship building. So
Absolutely, absolutely. No, fantastic insights, Elena, there. Now coming back to Alma Me, because you mentioned the word startup, and I understand, startups can have a lot of challenges. One of the challenges, like, it's you and your co-founder doing a lot of things. So tell us about the most important challenges and how do you tackle them in building Alma Me, basically.
the most important challenges. Well, I can talk about some personal challenges. Like, for me, it's quite challenging I've always, when I did my PhD, I worked quite independently and, I had to deliver, but I still knew there was someone who's going to ask for the results. So,
Here,
there was
nobody
some,
asked.
no, nobody asked. So it's like, okay. So, and that's actually a completely new form of understanding and like this feeling of, okay, I need to, do
Deliver.
something,
Mhm.
deliver. And it really, for me, it was hard and tough in the beginning. But, I asked actually Angela at some point, can you, check in with me? Can we talk about things? Because I just need someone not to hold me accountable, but maybe, yes, maybe that's it, Manish.
Each other. That's how
Yeah,
founders
yeah,
work, right? Like one person, and you cannot
yeah,
always be on your highs. You'll have your lows.
yeah,
So you need
yeah.
somebody who kind of
100%. So this is more on a personal level, honestly, which was a struggle. And of course, also some mindset differences. Honestly, in the beginning, it was so difficult for me, Manish. Coming from being a PhD student where, knowledge, everything we do is for free. And now I'm going out and I'm charging people for
Mhm.
my knowledge. So it's really, there was a big, big mindset shift. It took me a long, long time to come to a place where I felt comfortable charging others for knowledge. So there was also a struggle, but on a more Almami level,
Mhm.
on a startup level, is a very interesting journey because Angela and I, we have no external investment, so we're
Mhm.
bootstrapping. So naturally, everything we pay out, we have to make before, right? So that's a interesting experience on how you can actually, generate in creative ways, generate money actually when you
Mhm.
need it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Um, so one thing, for example, which also I hadn't thought that could potentially be so challenging when you work with universities, sales cycles are very long. So when you bootstrap, you're very dependent on cash flow.
Absolutely.
So if you start talking to a university and it takes 6-9 months until you can actually potentially sign a contract because, budgets and so on.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, exactly. That became that became a bit of a challenge for us, and that's actually interesting. But because we're always problem solving oriented, we were like, okay, what are other ways of creating cash flow? And
Mhm.
when you think about universities, it's not as easy. I cannot just walk in and say, hey, would you be interested in buying into? Even if there is lots of layers, sometimes procurements and so on. When we work with private individuals, Manish, you can decide what you want to do with your money. If you want to give me your money now, you can do it. So we said, okay, why don't we try to do the B?
Private. Yeah. Direct.
Yeah, so directly to the consumer. And this is also how the Job Accelerator
Accelerator.
program
Mhm. No, makes
was
total
born
sense. Total
to
sense.
generate cash flow, actually. And it turns out it doesn't only generate cash flow, it's actually a wanted product that
No.
we're now going to scale.
Fantastic. But so I wanted to come to this because Elena, you have done your PhD, you're quite talented, you are entrepreneurial, right? So it also seems that there is an opportunity cost to kind of align with a mission and build a venture out of it, because when you are building Almami, which is quite mission driven, you're also losing on so many other things that with a person with your capability can do. And how do you manage that? Because first of all, leaving academia itself is like challenging, because you have kind of trained
Yeah.
yourself to that extent. Then there are so many lucrative, things that, I mean, you train others to go to that path. But at the same time, you are kind of also sacrificing many other opportunities. So how do you kind of manage that thoughts among yourself? Because this is true for many entrepreneurs, so if you are mission driven, if you have like one thing, you are missing on so many other things. And here's, yeah. this challenge, how do you address that?
Manish, is a very valid point. And maybe I was always naive enough to not think about it in that way at all. Because there is a cost to whatever I do, but I have a very deep belief that what I do is needed. And I'm very connected to that mission so that it's worth everything I invest in it. Is a huge investment, It's a huge investment. It's naturally a risky investment, building a startup. But, there is something inside of me that I have felt from day one that told
Mhm.
me you can do it. And Manish, I believe in this saying, believe in you're halfway there,
Mhm.
because I think that's really what it is. When you believe you can do it, you can, because you will always find ways of making things happen. Because as long as you don't give up, you cannot fail.
Absolutely.
And I think this is a little bit how I look at it. In my mind, it sounds a bit crazy, but failing doesn't exist.
You are
See
already
this.
very successful, in what you do. But my question is different
Oh,
because,
yeah.
because it's not about failing, because I think you have built an excellent community, you have grown so much on LinkedIn. So there are many levels of successes. But then, as an entrepreneur, you have so many ideas coming up. And if you are focusing too much on one thing, you're also missing so many other things.
Yeah.
And how do you kind of overcome those things?
Manish, good topic. So let me tell you,
Yes.
I'm the visionary of this company. So
Yes.
I have ideas all the time.
Fantastic.
All the
Yeah.
time. So I'm generating more ideas than you can even imagine every day. So I go to Angela and I tell her about all my ideas because I'm a creative mind, and I tell
Mhm.
her, oh, we could do this, we could do this. And then she's the one with structure and she's thinking about, okay, Elena,
She's calming you down.
focus. Yes. Manish, we were smart enough that very early on we started working with a startup advisor who taught us one thing. Most startups fail because they have no focus. So the important thing is it's all good you can do. I want to solve so many things. I want to collaborate now with companies. I want to do this. I want to do this. But the reality is focus on one thing, make it work, and then you can expand. It took me a very long time to understand because I thought, I want to be here. I want to do this. I want to also do this. Until I realized, let's get good at really one thing, generate money to then develop all the other things. Yes, there is an opportunity cost. You never know what's the right thing. We've tested many things. And I think you can also see what's working. So it was interesting for us because, as an example, we tried a lot of self-paced offerings directly to the consumer. It's not what they wanted. Manish, although I offer you very similar knowledge to a fraction of the price of the Job Accelerator program, it's not what they wanted. They really love the program we're running. And we're at a point where we now scale and where we automate a lot of things in order to be more efficient, to be able to take more people on. So it's really just testing different things because you can pursue a lot of different things, obviously. And I guess in the beginning you will need to, there is a problem, but you don't really know what is the right solution to the problem, right? So you will naturally have to test a lot of things. So yeah, there are things in my mind where I sometimes think, could we have or should we have pursued instead of this angle? Should we have tried this angle? Absolutely. And you never
This
know,
is
right?
and this is so normal, Elena, because I was listening to it was Peter Thiel perhaps, and he was mentioning that basically startup is a search of the most scalable idea, right? So you are still kind of navigating so many things, and then once you have this product market fit or whatever that you think is really scalable, you focus all your energies there. So right now, I see you very mission driven, which is great. But of course, what is the outlook? What is the next idea that you have, and how do you want to grow Almami?
Okay, Manish. Honestly, my dream is still the mission still stands. I want to equip PhDs or early career researchers really with the tools and knowledge they need to make the transition into industry in a way that they understand their value and they're able to articulate that value. I have a big mission to still keep building relationships with universities, go out, help create awareness about that topic, and collaborate with universities to, make that actually happen. I think we're in a really good way. I see a lot of good signals, a lot of good things are actually happening. So this is the one side. I really want to get our solution into universities so that they can actually give it to their students so that they feel well prepared when they make the transition. And the B2C, so the business to consumer, so the individual PhD side, we're starting to build exciting things where we now, a lot of the process that I described in the beginning, where we will hopefully automate a lot more things so we can be more efficient and we can scale that part of the business. Because right now, the bottleneck of the business is ourselves. It's me and Angela. And we're starting to look into working with other coaches that can actually help us because we always want to have the human touch in this program. It will never be fully automated. We always want to have the coaches. So we're starting to build that out slowly too. But when you build a business, what I came to understand is you develop the process, you understand the process, and when you have understood the process and made it more efficient, then you can start training other people. Before, there is no need to bring other people on. So we're at a place where I think we have improved the process. It's more efficient than it was before. And now we can slowly start training other people. So you need to think Angela ran the program in the beginning completely by herself. And now she's already bringing me in, training me on all the different steps. So, she's teaching me the process. And we're starting to bring other people on, teach them. And in this way, hopefully, we'll be able to scale. And of course, always, I love to be out and I love to be the face of Alma.me. I love to go out to give workshops. I love to interact with the students. It's my favorite thing. Like, if you ask me what's your favorite thing to do, it's like last week I was in Vienna, I was at this panel, I was giving a CV workshop. The interaction with the students and this personal interaction, the small conversations you have where you feel like, okay, you really kind of like help that person, even if it's just a little bit, that's really what energizes me. And this is what I love the most about the job. I know this was actually not the question, but I want to keep doing these things.
No, absolutely. And of course, next question is, if you want to scale up, are you hiring? Are you looking for people who want to be associated with you? And if you are, how can they reach you?
Well, to be honest, at the moment, we're not necessarily looking. We do already have a good circle of coaches, like people who actually approached us. And so we're not officially hiring on that side at the moment. People can always reach out if they feel like they want to contribute. Maybe in the future, it's just good to say hello. I think LinkedIn works well. Always just connect with me. Say something. We had people that were potentially getting on as coaches. They reached out through LinkedIn. Here you go. It's like I never put a job ad out, but and I also believe again you will attract the right people. It's so interesting when your brand has a voice, right? And your voice attracts. Is so interesting, Manish. Like how branding works because you attract the right people is so cool.
And when you are mission driven, I think similar minds also will, come to you and kind of interact. And, it was such a coincidence. I was having this interesting conversation with, Professor Bob. And he mentioned about you and I was smiling, I couldn't control smiling because I didn't know that you both are associated in whatever ways, like far, far. But then I could connect the dots, like how like-minded people automatically connect. And I could connect with Bob, I could connect with you. And, somehow this podcast was also driven by exactly the same mission because, I had felt same confusions while transitioning. And I had thought like whenever I'll be a bit comfortable in my life, I'll try to kind of initiate these informational interviews, which one can see and maybe get inspired or actually, you never know. Today, like, for example, you have given so many tips. People can listen to it, get inspired, reach out for help. And this is so fantastic and enriching experience also for me. So now coming to the rapid fire round, this is an interesting round where I'll not give you a moment of thinking space. So it will be like really rapid and you have to answer it without thinking. Okay. All right. So here you go. Most underrated skill for industry success.
Communication.
A book, podcast or tool every PhD should check out.
Every PhD, everyone, one of the most books that have left not a mark on me, but that I talk a lot or think have influenced me a lot is actually How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, that's a very famous book. A moment you felt really proud as Alma.me's CEO.
Honestly, I felt very proud when, oh my God, I had many moments. Manish, I'm sorry.
Think about one. No, think about one great moment. Like you said, Vienna so many times, the panel discussion, or, somebody who was struggling and you kind of, help
Mm,
him out. Think about a
mm.
moment.
I think when Angela was in Stockholm, we saw each other for the first time, and we had our ever first kind of like our inaugural Alma Me event, and it was at Karolinska Institute, and it was like we had 160 people in the audience.
Wow,
I
fantastic.
think that was it. That was pretty
Proud
cool.
feeling.
Yes, and
Alright.
being back at my own university, and it was a bit cool. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, fantastic. So one word that describes your transition from academia. Smooth.
Growth.
Okay, perfect. Tea, coffee, or a founder fuel of choice? What's your favorite beverage?
Coffee. I mean, Manish, I have a barista machine at home. Like, I'm a coffee lover.
Got it. I mean, I have rarely seen a PhD student who's not high on caffeine. So, there you go.
Exactly. I mean, it can be black tea or it can be coffee, but most certainly one of these two. I agree.
Fantastic. And we have been talking for, I think, more than, 1.5 hours or even 2 hours. And, the kind of energy, still I have, like, I was like whole day working and, it has been long day also for you.
Yeah.
And I can talk on and on and on, but, I would really respect your time. And perhaps we'll also try to catch up some other time on our next podcast. Till then, thank you so much, Elena. Have a great day. It was fantastic talking to you.
Thank you, Manish. And I should probably say have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.